Go ahead, Lawrence.
Well, are those folks in now, or?
They're coming in.
Okay, good. Well, welcome everybody to Brainstorming the Human Connection, brought to you by the South Dakota Humanities Council. And we are going to be exploring why this winter time is such a party time. You know, people have around the globe, right around this time, seem to find reasons not only for, you know, single day celebrations like a Christmas or a New Year's, but sometimes like month-long celebrations or more. You know, one of the earlier ones in Rome was Saturnalia, and it started a week before the solstice and then went on for a month after that. So those people were really partying, you know, and it was such a party time that I think one of the reasons that we actually have Christmas was to compete with Saturnalia, because during that time, people not only, you know, had lots of parties and drinking and doing things for the gods and stuff like that, but they apparently had quite a few orgies too. And so the church decided, well, you know, like, you know, we can't have all of that, you know. So it's apparently they decided to co-opt that holiday and start some kind of Christian holiday. They had more depth and meaning to it, but it actually met with some resistance, because later on, many of the Christian faiths, particularly Puritans, they sought to outlaw Christmas. And in this country, in the beginning, we had a lot of, let's say, discussions about whether or not Christmas was going to be a thing. But whatever the holiday, people are often celebrating or find some way to celebrate. So I want to start off this conversation actually with a video here. I'm going to share this with you, and the video will sort of like take us quickly around the world at some of the holidays, just to give us an idea of how broad this idea is, because a lot of people think, oh, it's just about Christmas. But that's because, you know, we don't get out much. You know, once we get out a little bit, we can find that there are lots of people celebrating Christmas, and are not Christmas really. They're celebrating some kind of winter holiday in many different ways. So let's watch this, and then I'll have more. But they just cover about 12 here. Whoops! Oh, I did the wrong one here. Oh, let me see. Did I get okay, here we go. And I got to put the sound and all of that on. Okay, here we go.
From Christmas to Yuletide to Hanukkah, Midwinter festivals and holidays are celebrated around the world from different religions, cultures, and customs. Let's celebrate 12 of those events from around the globe. Number 1. On Christmas Eve in Finland, families place a single lit candle in the snow next to the graves of their loved ones. The candles are a symbol of resurrection and a reminder that ancestors will live again. Number 2. As the birthplace of both Jesus and St. Nicholas, the Middle East is home to some spectacular Christmas celebrations. From Christmas lights on the streets of Cairo to a giant Christmas tree in the main square of Beirut. Christmas here is one of the most celebrated events of the year. Number 3. Every year, a winter solstice celebration called the Junji Festival is celebrated in Taiwan on December 21st or 22nd. Junji means the arrival of winter. Number 4. Hanukkah in Israel is observed for 8 nights and days, with lighting the candles of a candelabra with 9 branches, called a menorah. Number 5. The Christkin, or Christkinel, is a traditional giver of gifts at Christmas time in several European countries. The word Christkin translates to Christ child, but is depicted as an angelic figure with blonde hair and wings. Number 6. In Italian folklore, Befana is an old woman who delivers gifts to children throughout Italy on Epiphany Eve, the night of January 5th, in a similar way to St. Nicholas or Santa Claus. Number 7. Icelandic children get to enjoy the favor on not one, but 13 Father Christmases, called the Yule Lads. These merry but mischievous fellows take turns of visiting kids on the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. Number 8. Saturnalia is an ancient Roman festival in honor of the god Saturn, held on the 17th December of the Julian calendar, and later expanded with festivities through the 23rd of December. Number 9. Hogmanay is the Scots word for the last day of the year, and is synonymous with the celebration of the new year in the Scottish manner. Number 10. Jonkanu is a street parade with music, dance, and costumes of Akan origin in many islands across the English-speaking Caribbean every 26th of December and New Year's Day. Number 11. Yule, or Yuletide, is a festival historically observed by ancient Germanic people. Scholars have connected the original celebration of Yule to the wild hunt and the god Odin. Number 12. Last, we have Kwanzaa, which is a week-long celebration held in the U.S. and other nations of the African diaspora in the Americas to honor African American heritage and culture. It is observed from December 26th through January 1st, culminating in gift-giving and a feast. This colorful time of the year is marked by a plethora of beautiful costumes and celebrations rich with traditions, not including the 12 we just touched. What better way to celebrate these holidays by coming together to learn more about how others celebrate around the world? Thank you for taking the time to watch. May you and yours have a happy holidays and a joyous new year from all of us here at Working Solutions.
Okay, so that's our opener for just to give us a taste of how big the winter holidays are. And there, as the video mentioned, there are lots more. I think it's worth pointing out, however, that even if we just what did I do? Oh wait.
I suppose it all started with this.
No, that wasn't right. Okay, so it should be pointed out that even Christmas has more than one date. And a lot of people think that it's always the 25th of December, but it's not. You know, for example, Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas in January. You know, one of the reasons is that they have a different calendar. They're operating on the Julian calendar, and we use the Gregorian calendar. So that places things a little bit different. A lot of holidays, Easter and all of those, they get switched around because they're using a different calendar. About 19 countries celebrate Christmas on the around let's say January. Well, in 2023 they'll be doing it on January 7th and January 6th. To has two countries doing that. If you want to participate or just see how those services go, there is an Orthodox church in Sioux Falls, and they have quite an interesting congregation, not to mention their festivals are different. You might find that worthwhile, something interesting to do as a winter celebration. With that, I'd like to open it up a little bit to the folks who are here to talk about any special holidays that are celebrated around in the winter time that you are familiar with. There's lots of stuff to cover here, but I want to give you guys a chance. Anything that you think that you know that your family or people that you know or people that you hang with that is different from the, let's say the mainstream, wherever that mainstream is, that you celebrate or a way that you celebrate. Anybody? Nobody celebrates anything a little bit different. No? Okay, we'll go on. If you think of something or any of these things spark your interest, then raise your hand or some kind of way let us know, and then we will go in that direction. Winter celebrations. Let me ask you another question here. Why do you think people have a tendency to celebrate lots of things around the world in the same kind of time period, especially between December and January, by the end of January? Sometimes it goes further, but the bulk of them are around in that time frame. Anybody? Well, I like go ahead, Betty. You look like you have had an idea.
Well, I just assume that it has something to do with so much darkness and being indoors more, close quarters. That's just an assumption.
Sure. Well, that seems to be a good one. It's certainly a good place to start. I mean, we can feel that when we feel all cooped up and, like, especially if you're with people, or especially like little kids and they're going stir crazy and then they make you crazy with their stirring crazy, sometimes you want to just, like, even if you don't go out, throw them out, or do something with them, there's something to do, because it gets, it can get monotonous, and also with the lack of light, you can start to feel some kind of depression. So maybe it's somebody figures out in every place it's a good time for a party. What do you go ahead, buddy?
Well, and also if you've done your work during the daylight time of the year, you have all your food right close at hand. So it's a little easier to prepare a feast and invite people to come and share and get together. Probably some prevention of mental health problems, hopefully.
Yep. Yeah. What are some things that you find that even just looking at that video, what are some of the things that a particular thing that you found that are common to these festivals? Well, in the interest of time, light, they all do everything from lighting candles to electric lights to, in some cases, having huge bonfires, and that whole Saturnalia thing where they would, like go cavorting in the dark and then, light up things. And, there was like partying to beat all parties every year, so that might speak to what drives people to have these kind of celebrations. Any other things that you found that are in common with many, if not most, of the winter celebrations? Anybody? How about food? Food. Lots of people make special meals, special things that they often eat only at that time. You know, like in Hanukkah, they have those jelly-filled donuts and all kinds of fried things that people often don't eat any other time except during those festivals. Anything else? Most places don't have orgies, so you can count that one out. That's
I
only
think
second.
I,
Go
I
ahead.
think I think music is another one that's often something that's part of celebrations in addition to the lights and the food. So
Yes, yes. And one of the interesting things, music, and that's both singing and dancing. And one of the interesting, let's say, footnotes to all three of those things is that they all cause people to bond. It's actually a chemical reaction in the brain, from something called oxytocin. But all of those things, I mean, not that they knew about oxytocin, but people can experience that when people sing together, eat together, play together, do things, these activities, there's a certain bonding. So not only is it a stress relief, but it also helps to bond a culture, to get people to feel connected with each other. When you experience some common thing, you're certainly experiencing a common celestial phenomena, that is to say, darkening. And then at solstice is when it starts to turn around. So there's all kinds of things associated with that, things like hope. People feel like, okay, it can get better. And in fact, we'll see one of, at least part of a video that I'm going to play for you a little bit later, that has to do with one of the reasons that people have these celebrations is to bring back the sun, because the sun seems to be going away. And then somebody like says, okay, well, we know that at this date, it's going to be coming back. So why don't we just say, well, we can cause it, by having the celebration, we'll cause on this date, we'll ask the gods to bring back the sun, and then magically it appears every time we ask for it, So that's a good time to, have a festival, to have people make note of that. There are some places where people have built large structures that on the solstice, when the sun comes up or a certain star comes out, it shines through a small hole, kind of like a pen camera, and then people can see this shaft of light that comes through right at the time of the solstice. It's a particular kind of way that people mark and actually gain some precision about which day is the solstice because of that celestial term. So there are lots of reasons why people celebrate and find cause to commemorate some date around what we call Christmas. It should be noted that people don't really know when the date that Christ was born, but hey, how about this date? And then that works. As long as everybody's on board with it, does it really matter? It's really like a commemoration of that date. Any other things that come to mind, Betty?
I saw something in the video you showed that I wasn't aware of, and it was the old crone who goes around and gives gifts to children. I think her name was Efana. I might not have
Yeah.
remembered.
Yeah.
I want to apply for that role as soon as I can gather enough. But
I think that's a good role.
I'm ready.
I'll buy the broom. You know.
I've already been accused of writing one of those. But there are many different forms of gift givers who show up at this time and bring things to children. So that's something that seems to be a commonality.
Yes, yes. It's a children's holiday, and children, by the way, they represent to us a new beginning.
Mhm.
You know, that's one of the things that endears children to us, is that they represent hope. They represent another chance for humanity to get it right. Not that, you know, that isn't a repeating theme, but at least it's symbolic of, okay, you know, as being humans, we mess a lot of things up. I mean, we're not perfect, and we didn't make ourselves, so you know, we just can't beat ourselves up too much about not being perfect. But at the same time, you know, we see children as, why don't we do something with children to make them better than we are? At least that's what we say. You know, that that's another discussion on another day, but it is a thing. Yes, doing something for children. Any other things that you find that are noteworthy about these celebrations that we have during these winter months? Anything? Well, one of the things I want to explore is how many different let's say celebrations there are, just so that when you know, by the end of this, this conversation, I'm hoping it's going to be a conversation with someone beside me and Betty and Colby, um, that we can, you know, something that we can a culture that we can see how they celebrate uh, uh, these winter holidays, to look at different ways that they do it. And about one large population that we don't talk about much in this culture is Hindu culture, and the culture in India. And there's a lot of people who live in India, and there's a lot of people who are from India who live not only in the United States, but actually in South Dakota. So I thought it would be useful to familiarize you with the celebration of Diwali, because I don't think many people know about that. And by the way, there is a Hindu temple in South Dakota, just south of Sioux Falls. So that might be something, another thing that you might want to take advantage of and go down and experience the festival of Diwali. So I'm going to play, I think. I'm going to play.
So what is Diwali?
Oh.
Let me explain.
Well, let me stop it. Let me see. And now I'm going to try to do the screen share thing again. I'm feeling more confident, you know. But, let's see. Where is it? Oh, here we go. And that's up. And okay, can you see the screen share now? Okay, so let's explore what is Diwali. I think we got it right. Oh, I think I messed up here.
so what is Diwali? Well, let me explain. Diwali or Deepavali is the Hindu festival of light, and it's celebrated on the night of the new moon preceding the Hindu month of Kartika. Now, because it is a lunar holiday, the date changes. It ranges from late October to mid-November. And it is the largest celebration in India, and generally it signifies victory of good over evil, of knowledge over ignorance, and hope over despair.
Diwali is a joyous festival. Some might even consider it the kind of biggest and grandest holiday in the very long list of holidays that make up the Hindu calendar.
The festival is celebrated in an Orthodox fashion over 5 days. But most Hindus are focused on the day of Lakshmi Puja. And Lakshmi Puja is the 3rd day.
Celebrating Diwali really varies quite a bit from region to region, from denominational or theological tradition to tradition, even family to family. I sometimes like to say, you know, if you get 3 Hindus together, you'll have at least 5 different ways of celebrating Diwali.
And what people will do is they will host worship services at their homes, or they'll go to the temples, and then they will distribute sweets with their friends, with their neighbors, with their office colleagues.
Diwali in particular is a celebration that is very much about open doors and open minds and open hearts.
They're establishing friendships. They're, in fact, thinking about the sweetness of life and letting any bygones be bygones, like let loose any of the bitterness that may have existed or any misgivings. So it's a very communal celebration, and it's full of joy. They light fireworks.
There is an extension and an invitation to our non-Hindu neighbors to join in the celebration, to join in the fun, but also to join in the opportunity for spiritual reflection.
And Diwali derives its name from the clay oil lamp called the diya. And diyas are handcrafted little cups. They have a flattened rim, and they're decorated in bright colors, and they're filled with oil. And in India, families will place these diyas in rows along their foundations or on their balconies.
Light becomes a really central theme in Diwali, and specifically the triumph of light over darkness.
I think many faith traditions have festivals of light or that involve light during these darker, colder months in the Northern Hemisphere, and Diwali is one of those. In a way, it's a reminder that we will make it through these dark times. We can come together and we can bring the light within ourselves to each other, to bring joy to each other in community.
So we wish each other Shubh Diwali, which means may this coming together of light be auspicious.
May Diwali be a time of sweetness and friendship, well-being and prosperity. May the diyas you light within and around your home nourish your own inner flame, so that you may be a source of joy, radiance, and knowledge in this world.
Okay, let me see if I can get back to the page I need to be on to, let me see here. I know it's in there somewhere. Okay, Google Chrome, and oh, there we go. Okay. Oh. Got too many buttons here to push. Okay. All right. There we go. So, what did you think about Diwali? Would you like to have one here? Well, I think that it's useful to point out cultures like this, because often, even when they're in our state, even when we even work with some of those people, we have interactions with them. They can be people that we that provide services. Sometimes there are instructors in university and schools, all kinds of ways we interact with people who have these celebrations, and without being part of their community, we miss a lot that we have available to us, but we're not taking advantage of the richness of, I feel, American culture. The richness is that we have so many people from around the world who are, in their own way, in their homes and with their friends, they're celebrating these things. And I've often found great value in participating in those events with them. That's where you will certainly find more interesting foods that you would never have a chance. You will never buy those in a restaurant. You just won't. And even if you go to the stores, you won't find it fixed in that way for the most part. There are all these different things that people are doing right under our nose. All these things that they're enjoying. And if we get out of our cultural imprisonment, we can really find, at least to me, it's makes life a lot more exciting. Now, for some people, I guess they feel like it's too complicated and it just sort of bewilders them. Everybody has their own way that they deal. So I'm not trying to be the judge here, but at least offer you that there are other possibilities right here, even in South Dakota, for exchange of ideas and interesting things to do. So what are some family traditions that you have that maybe they're not some whole cultural thing, but something different that you feel your culture or your family does that's different than most people are doing? Some special way you celebrate Christmas or something that we could benefit from or not, but maybe have the opportunity. Anybody? Do I need to call on people? Okay, so let's go on. I'm hoping that you guys will join in this conversation. I'm trying to deal with all kinds of buttons here. That's why I'm kind of let's see, here we go. I'm going to put this reference in the chat. Now, this reference isn't something you necessarily have to deal with right now, but you might want to grab this URL link because it takes you to the history of Christmas. And my observation is that if you understand the history of Christmas and the struggles that it has gone through, that holiday has gone through to become what we have today, not that that's the best iteration of Christmas, the whole merchandising marketing thing, but just understanding that will, I hope, make it easier for us to open our hearts and minds to there being other ways to celebrate during this winter season. That it's Christmas, but it's not either or, it's both and. It's all these other things. And the party doesn't have to stop on January 25th. The party can keep going right into March, for that. And then we'll have spring ones. But this can help you get through the winter doldrums. I think Betty was alluding to that. It's like it's dark outside. We have fewer hours of light, and the further north you go, it even gets bizarre, like a whole night where there's no sunrise, and then I know when I lived in Alaska, you could see the sun go up and almost come down, but then go back up again. It never actually set in the summer times. So I imagine it's just the opposite, because I was there in the summer. I was up there in the summer, but the winter time, if you spent the same amount of time I spent in the winter time, then it would be the exact opposite, where the sun would kind of peak up, but then mostly be down. Then you'd have some days where it was like total darkness for days, you know. So what kind of ways, the history, you can just grab that URL, just cut and paste it, and then you can get more information from that. But what kind of ways have you seen winter be celebrated? Or dealt with? Maybe that's a better word. Endured. Nothing so far, huh? Well, there's another one that I would like to introduce you to. It's Soyal. And I guess I'm pronouncing that right because I'm neither Zuni or Hopi. And those tribes, they're the ones that celebrate this this holiday. And now the reference video that I found was way too long for this program, but I thought I would still introduce it to you because you can at least get some kind of a feel for it, for what the celebration is like. But I will say beforehand, I'll play about 4 or 5 minutes of it, and then I'll cut out of it. And I will put right now, I will put the link to the video in the chat. So if you want to see the whole, video, you can grab that link and then go see the whole thing. But in this particular case, I'm only going to play about 4 or 5 minutes of it. If I can get the screen share thing going again. I know how to do it. It's just I have a hard time thinking of. That's there, and now that's set up, because I have to set this thing up too. The screen share doesn't let us just punch a button here. At least I don't know how to do that. Okay, so here's this. I'm going to put it full screen, and then I'm going to play it. Okay, that's some kind of idea about their celebration. Now, what we saw was just one little peek into it. There is lots more because I guess it's the 22nd. That's the kind of like the penultimate day, or the day where everything comes together. But it marks what they call it a new cycle in the wheel of the year. Okay, that's how they traditionally viewed time for for purification and that kind of thing. So both the Hopi and the Zuni have that tradition, and for the Hopi it can last about 16 days really, and they have like prayers, and they have passing down the stories from the elders in a tribe. And of course they have to have a feast, because all of these celebrations have a feast. That more than, even if you want to have a farm service administration meeting, if you serve some coffee and donuts, you get more people to show up, so having food is a way to bring people together and actually have them experience something together. And that, as I said before, brings about more bonding. And this ceremony really is to lure back the sun god. And that's because they believe that the sun god has traveled away from the tribes during the winter. So you get people together, you do the feast, and you do all of the ceremonies, and lo and behold, the days start getting longer. So that's it's useful, and it helps people to cope. Dealing with each other is, especially when it's a long, dark winter, dealing with each other can be, let's say, more burdensome. So at least we have some parties to make that journey with each other a little bit easier. Okay, so any other things? I'm feeding you guys this stuff, but I'm hoping that you have something too, some ideas, because I certainly don't have all the ideas. I'll bring some, and believe me, I have more. But I think this is a conversation. So I'm looking for you guys to bring some kind of contribution as well to this discussion. Anybody?
Okay, you've all had your chance.
Yeah.
Well, that was like being at a Huachipi for me. Reminded me of the night the Aztecs came to Cannonball, and our friend Don Grayday was in his car and videoed their arrival in the dark, and it was so exciting. The Aztecs are coming, the Aztecs are coming. But we have literally at our fingertips access to the entire world. You've introduced us to that reality again. I would say that the reason nobody is offering much is that because our cultures in this area are overwhelmingly so similar, whether we're Norwegian or German. There are others, of course, but the things we did growing up as kids and we continue to do with our own children and grandchildren are pretty familiar, including the foods, the gifts, all of that, and the music coming down mostly from the European church traditions. But I love this video and I want to see more. And if we all would avail ourselves and maybe show some of these at meetings or get-togethers, then we wouldn't be so limited in our expectations and appreciation and so exclusive, because a lot of it is fear of the unknown. If somebody comes along and says, hey, this is what we do for Christmas, and they're cooking frog's legs or something, that might kind of put us off. So
You said frog legs and you got my attention.
Yeah, well, I don't have access to them very often, and I guess I wouldn't really bother if I did. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's just we could do better at familiarizing ourselves even while we're at home in the dark winter. and then maybe introduce some of those things one way or another, start playing some different music occasionally during the holidays, or watching these instead of the wonderful Christmas story that we like to see over and over.
Well, you bring up some very interesting points, Betty, and I would go further to say that actually we do have a lot of opportunities right here in the northeast corner of South Dakota, where you and I, live. And we did do this a few times in Roslyn, and I just went over to the Northern State University, and I talked to some of the Chinese students there, and they came and they spent the holiday with host families in Roslyn, because they close up the university. I don't know why they do that but we brought them to Roslyn, arranged homestays, and they fixed Chinese food for the residents at the nursing home. They basically took over the kitchen, and they did dances, and they brought in like things from their different areas, and some were from Taiwan, some was from PRC, but they lived in different places, and they brought in like things that kind of explained their culture, talked about things. Some did some songs, some did some dancing as entertainment for the nursing home. Then everybody in the community was invited, and so they got to see and share that with their loved ones, and even if you didn't have loved ones, in the nursing home. So, it's like, I figure like if a little town like Roslyn could do it, that that opens up possibilities. Plus, in that process, you're going to get to know people on a personal level, as opposed to some 50,000-foot generalized view. A person rather than a culture. To me, that's more important, to know people rather than some figment of their of what we decide their culture is. So I think we have opportunities to reach out and enjoy some of the culture that's sitting right in front of us. And of course, there are people who are from India, from Syria, from all different kinds of places, and they bring their culture with them. And if there's 4 or 5 of them, that understand that thing, they'll have their celebrations right in the living room. Well, if we know those people and we have relationships with them, those opportunities can expand past their living room, and they don't need some organization to organize it. That's, you and I can do that. You and I can reach out to people and interact with them, and then we invite them to our house, they invite us to their thing, and then pretty soon you bring a friend, they bring a friend, and then pretty soon we have a culture that's sharing all different kinds of things that we would otherwise have no clue about. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Any other ideas that or winter celebrations that you are familiar with?
Lawrence, I'll go ahead and share a little bit more. So this isn't necessarily a winter celebration, but here, obviously in South Dakota, we have a lot of the Wachipis, as Betty had mentioned. We have in October the Black Hills Powwow, which is one of the largest in the region and has been for many, many years. And I was fortunate enough to go to school in Bozeman, Montana, at Montana State, and one of my best friends there was a man who is a member of the Crow Nation in Montana. And every August, I believe, they have a celebration called the Crow Fair, which again is very similar to, what the Black Hills Powwow would be to the Lakota people here in that culture. And so, and again, in all of these different types of celebrations, there's a common theme. It's bringing people together, to interact. You have music and dancing, you have food, but like you're suggesting, I think it's so important, you get to know sort of the 50,000-foot view, if you will, of what that's all about, but then to really get a deeper understanding, it's building on those relationships with individual people to really get to know more about it. So
Mhm. Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Colby. We're getting near the end of our time, and we've been talking about some, let's say, normal things that people do, but there are also some rather weird things that people do also. And so I think it would be I would be remiss if I didn't introduce you to some of the more let's say odd winter ceremonies. So I have one more of these, and because I think it'll be too long to finish, but I'm going to at this moment put the URL in the link in the chat, so you can grab that and you can play the whole thing if you would like to see it or see it over again. So let's see, I think I can go now to screen share and play and this whole thing and play that.
Getting ready for the holiday season is such a fun and festive time because everyone celebrates in their own unique way. While some people put up decorative Christmas trees covered in lights, others are carving radishes for their holiday tradition. If this sounds weird to you, it gets even wackier, so stay tuned. If this is your first time visiting our channel, don't forget to subscribe and please give this video a big thumbs up. Today we'll be showing you 10 weird holiday traditions from around the world. KFC. KFC is pretty delicious at any time of year, but the Japanese really enjoy eating meals from this fast food chain during the holiday season. Although the fried chicken establishment originated in the Western Hemisphere, people in Asia just can't get enough of it. But there are so many fast food franchises out there. What's so special about KFC to the Japanese? Well, this nationwide tradition started when KFC marketed its food as a traditional family meal for the holidays. Their marketing gimmick worked so well, and the Japanese thought a fried chicken dinner for their holiday was an excellent idea. Since the 1970s, the lines at Japanese KFCs during the month of December have been ridiculous. Christmas may not be a national holiday in Japan, but some people treat it as a romantic holiday, similar to Valentine's Day. It's customary for everyone to enjoy a nice dinner at a fancy restaurant, or a bucket of chicken from a fast food joint. During the holiday season, an estimated 3.6 million Japanese treat themselves, their families, and friends to the establishment's special Christmas dinner. The meal is so popular, some KFCs require customers to order weeks in advance, and those who rather stand in line for their meals sometimes have to wait for hours to get their hands on a tasty drumstick and a biscuit. Mari Lwyd. Are you ready for the next weird holiday tradition? If so, follow us along as we take a trip to Wales. This European country has a bunch of different customs, but its Christmas tradition might be the weirdest of them all. It's called Mari Lwyd, otherwise known as Grey Mare in English. Revelers take a horse's skull and decorate it with a bunch of different bells and fancy ribbons. Then they attach the skull to a pole. The person who's holding the skull is then covered with a white sheet, and they go door to door, singing songs and challenging families to a rap battle. As the battle rages on, they diss each other and hurl playful insults back and forth until a winner of the rap battle is crowned. Then the person holding the skull is usually invited inside of their challenger's home to enjoy some delicious refreshments, heading out to the next house and starting a brand new battle all over again. This old tradition has died out in many parts of the country, but it's still alive and well in many areas because it's said to bring good luck. If you travel to Wales anytime between December and January, you've been warned. Don't be surprised if you see someone draped in a white sheet carrying around an animal skull. We're not even sure where they get the horse skulls from, but to be honest, we'd rather not know. Goat on fire. Since 1966, the town of Gävle, Sweden, has been partaking in an act of arson to celebrate the holidays. If you think this sounds strange, just wait, because we're going to tell you all about this weird tradition. Each year, the historic city builds a 43-foot tall straw goat. On December 3rd, a large crowd gathers in the city to inaugurate the straw sculpture. Fireworks go off in the distance as everyone celebrates, and the goat stands proudly in the center of the town for everyone to gaze at its beauty. So where does the fire come into play? Well, the tradition was never intended for the goat to be set on fire, but that's usually what happens year after year. Arsonists have managed to torch the goat 39 times throughout the years, but the people of this city have finally decided to wisen up. They now set up security cameras and they have an around-the-clock live stream for people who keep an eye on the beloved goat. And if anyone tries to torch it, they'll be in for the stiff punishment. In 2001, an American tourist reportedly spent 2 weeks behind bars and paid a $10,000 fine after setting the poor goat on fire. When asked why he did it, he said it was because he thought it was a part of the city's tradition. Because the straw sculpture has gone up in flames so many times, we're not surprised that some people are confused by this tradition. It seems like the people of this town expect the goat to be destroyed, but they don't actually encourage it. Christmas log. This next tradition may seem like a joke, but it actually originates from the old Catalan mythology. For ages, people have used logs to help keep this long-standing tradition alive. Beginning on December 8th, people in this region gather up their decorative hollow logs. Each wooden log has a face and stick legs, and they wear little red hats on their heads. Before heading off to bed, children will grab sticks and proceed to beat their log while singing a traditional Catalonian song. Then they play nice with the log by making sure it's nice and cozy. They will set it up in a prominent place in their home and leave food out for it to eat. Then
Really, that's all the time we have. I put the link to that in the chat because I think it would be I think you'll find it very interesting. And then it'll give you, when you click on those and you go to that one, if you look, there will be other suggestions of the same kind of thing. So if you want to see more, that'll introduce you to, it gives you it's a gateway into lots more videos on that particular subject. I would like to add, in Japan, on the fried chicken thing, they mentioned that it sort of has now morphed into some kind of romantic holiday, that whole thing of, and then KFC, not to be outdone, they actually had have chocolate covered fried chicken, so it's a thing. It's a big thing, that's what you call interculturalism. Well, we've gotten to the end of our road again. I'm hoping that you will join us again next week, same time, same station, and we were going to be talking about libraries again. You'll find that this is a recurring subject on this program because I want to give librarians a chance to introduce you to how much they're doing in different places and what you're missing if you're not a regular visitor to your public library. So until next week, same time, same station, goodbye.